Oh, welcome to the Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Money Mainville. We've got a lot to discuss. And we'll start with Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler rundown. Great people, West Texas people, judges, mayors, senators, presidents, I'm sure. Maybe some of those are future. Most of them are past. Great bunch of people over there. If you happen to break a light during a celebration and the venue is charging you afterwards, but you don't think you should be charged, call Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler. They can help you out, especially if you're Texas Tech basketball and you're celebrating going to the Sweet 16, busting lights. Chance, I believe, said he wasn't paying for it. So I wonder if he was at fault. Who knows? I'm sure Texas Tech's footing the bill there. Or, I don't know, the venue. But if something does happen like that, you can call Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler. In reality, if you have a catastrophic injury, personal injury, if you have some family law to take care of, if you have some estate planning to take care of, if you're a head basketball coach and you've recently come into $150,000 because you've made the NCAA tournament and hit some goals along your contract, you can get that done there at Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler. Really, if you're just a hardworking man, woman, child in West Texas and need a lawyer, they're your lawyer. Go get them, Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler. On the Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler rundown, we've got what's going on this week, Money? The NCAA tournament will start with the Sammy the Seahawks, UNCW, Wilmington, and the Red Raiders in the first round. And Kerwin Walton was wet from deep. 27 points. He was the first player with 25-plus points, no turnovers, and no shots from two in the NCAA tournament history. And, benefit of hindsight, because we've seen both games now. And it's kind of hard to just think about the first game when you've seen the second game. What a difference. What a difference from Toppin, who I thought didn't really look good at all. Now, he had a double-double. That's kind of what Toppin does. Is he's just, when he's struggling, he's so quiet, still produces. It's pretty insane. But he was very loud on Saturday. So you kind of have that juxtaposition. But Kerwin, the same. He was very loud the first game, not loud at all the second game. But that was the game plan for both. So I'm going to struggle to keep these games separate. Maybe you can do better. Let's talk about the first game, then hit the second game. We'll cross the rest of the bracket here.
Yeah, I think part of what makes this easier for me to separate is that these two games feel like polar opposites of each other. And heading into this UNC Wilmington opener, I tried to give them as much respect as I could. And I said, hey, if Texas Tech is not making shots and JT Toppin cannot get going down low and they have the personnel to match up with him down there, it's going to be an interesting game. Like, you have a chance to lose this game. Now, neither of those things happened. You did not make shots. You were 13 of 46. 46 from three. That's an NCAA tournament record. 46 three-point attempts. And JT Toppin, like you mentioned, excuse me, I've been sick for like a week. It's the most annoying thing in the world. Toppin, as you mentioned, I don't think had his best game, and I don't really even think it was fully his fault. I just think Texas Tech had a lot of issues getting him the ball down low. They matched up with him well out of the pick and roll, just didn't have a lot of easy looks. And so even though, you look across the board and it's pretty efficient, 6 of 8, only 1 turnover, but then it's like 12 points. That's not what you need from the Big 12 Player of the Year. You need a little bit more activity than that. And I think, you use some things from this game to really influence your approach in the second game. And I think the way that Drake matched up with you made that second matchup a lot easier to make those adjustments. But yeah, man, I think the story in this game really is Kerwin Walton. I think you don't win that game without him. And just what a story. Like a guy that has been with your program through literal thick and thin, been through every single phase of this wild ride that we've been on the last couple of years, has a rough start to the season. Looks like he might not even be in the rotation come March Madness. And now he scores 27 points on 8 of 19 shooting from deep. Just incredible. And the other guy that really stood out to me in this game was Elijah Hawkins, who followed up this opening round performance with another really good game. But yeah, almost a triple-double in this game. Overall, not great from the floor, which is usually kind of what you can expect from him. But 10 assists to 2 turnovers, that is his kind of ball game. And again, I think they made it interesting. And I think just about everything that could have gone wrong for you went wrong, outside of the fact that you did not turn the ball over a lot, and you won by 10 against a team that I think is decent. Like, this is not a cupcake matchup. They have good personnel. They matched up with you well, and you won by 10, even with your identity of being a three-point shooting team completely eliminated, your best player not having his best night. You won by 10.
And really impressively so, I thought. I did not give the Seahawks as much credit as you did, to be fair, when we were previewing them last week. I thought you would cruise to at least a 10-point victory. I thought you would cover. I thought you would do better in the first half. But that run they went on to close the first half and they kind of opened the second half, I thought was really impressive. And equally as impressive was the toughness that Texas Tech showed across the final 15 minutes, without Christian Anderson scoring, without JT Toppin being dominant, though he did get a bunch of rebounds late. Kerwin kept making shots, which is not something he normally does. He usually hits a couple or 4 or 5 and then stops, and he just kept going and going. But really impressive, in my opinion. And then the Big 12 as a whole was impressive, I thought, on day one of the tournament, except for Kansas, who lost to Arkansas. Though I thought it was a tight game until the very end in a lot of ways. Gracefully, the Hunter Dickinson era has ended there in Kansas. He's going to go play for, what was the meme I saw? The Guangdong Tigers with Shaq?
Shanghai Sharks, yeah.
The Shanghai Sharks. So I think he'll probably get drafted.
No way, dude.
I don't think
No
he'll get
shot.
drafted highly.
No, he's not getting drafted.
Not even in the second round?
No way. He is not athletic enough.
Wow.
Not good enough of a shooter.
So
I would be very
you don't think
surprised.
he'll, not even in the G League, he'll stick around?
He'll probably get some G League burn, yeah, but he's not getting drafted.
With Frank Kaminsky and the kid from Drew Timmy.
Yeah, he had like 40 and 20 the other night. Ridiculous.
Guys that are too good for the G League, but not good enough for the NBA are like that. There's just such a massive gap.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me because it feels like those should be closer, the G League and the NBA. I wonder, do you think the best college team, do you think Florida could go win the G League? Or Duke? Do you think Duke could beat the G League? Or do you think there's a big gap between the G League, the NBA? There's the same gap between them and because they're grown men.
I feel like the logical answer is probably no. But it does make you think. And like depending on the team, I'd be really curious about the matchup.
Like maybe Auburn, because they're all old.
Yeah.
Maybe they match up better against, or at least mostly old. Makes you think. But the Big 12 did go at one point they were 9-1. I guess they were 6-1 the first day, and then won 3 more games the next day. At the point when I saw the final stat, I think they went 57% across the weekend. Day 2 for Texas Tech, day 3 for the tournament, round 2, the round of 32. The besties playing each other. Grant McCaslin said, we went fishing this summer. We're best friends. We love each other, but on the court, it's on, I think was the direct quote. And it was, and they were very competitive. And Drake also hung around, but you really dominated Mascari. He didn't score, and that was intentional to kind of give Bennett Sturts his and kind of stop the second guy. And I thought they did really, really good at that. And obviously JT Toppin just went off. And Darian Williams, who acts like he tears his Achilles on the floor, and then runs off the court and comes back, saying he was being dramatic in the postgame. And Grant said, I did not say that. That was all him. But it feels like he agreed. Those two guys just, that's what you've been expecting all year from those two. So that was awesome.
Yeah, and I think it was the perfect game to do that. I mean, when I was previewing this team, I mean, this is a fun, unique Drake team. They've got a ton of length on the perimeter, but they don't have size down low. And so going into this game, in my Drake breakdown, you can see I'm, calling out this game belongs to JT Toppin. Like, coming off a bad night against a team that matched up with him physically and was able to slow him down, he's got to have a monster performance in this game. There's just too many variables pointing towards the fact that he should just dominate. And that's exactly what happened. And I think Texas Tech was deliberate in making that happen. And Rob, I don't know if you remember, but a few months before, maybe just a month or so before the tournament, before now, I had some beef with Red Raider fans that were saying that this is a 3-point only shooting team. And if they get matched up with a team with another big in the tournament, they're going to get destroyed because they just shoot so many threes. And I said, that's absolutely incorrect. How can you watch this team night in and night out, watch the inside-out basketball that happens and the balance that JT Toppin creates for your shooters and think that that's going to be the case? And these two games have kind of been the opposite ends of that spectrum, right? Against UNC Wilmington, you have a 67% three-point rate, meaning 67% of the shots that you took from the field were threes. That was your second highest of the season. And then in this game, that's all the way down to 27%, which is your third lowest. So you kind of were able to play both sides of the coin. And I think that's always the sign of a well-prepared coaching staff and a group of players who are willing to buy into the game plan and do whatever the scout says to do. Like guys who care more about winning than getting shots up. And you've heard that, like if you've been watching in between the games, and they'll have some features on Texas Tech or, the sideline report during the game. And everybody's talking about no egos. Like, we want everybody to eat. We don't care about our personal stats. We just want to do whatever it takes to win. And I think whenever you're around college sports for long enough, you hear enough of that to where you're like, but like, yeah, really, like, are you really on board with that? Like, you're now getting incentivized by a massive paycheck to kind of do like what's best for you. But I think these two games have kind of contrasted the fact that, like, I think these guys believe that. And I think that's of a lot of value in March because I think in this game, it would have been really easy to start thinking like, all right, we're pulling away a little bit. Let's go get some threes up and allow Drake to crawl back into this one. I think there was a moment at the start of the second half where you put up like 3 or so threes in a row on a possession, and it got a little close, and the game plan just flipped back, and you just went right back inside, started being more physical, more surgical. And I think that's ultimately what won you the game is you have a group of guys who are willing to do whatever it takes. And in this case, the game plan was simple. It really was. They did not have the size to match up with you down low. They did on the perimeter. If you wanted to beat them, you had to get the ball inside. And you did just that. I mean, as dominant of a performance that you could ask for from both Darion Williams and JT Toppin.
Just really, really impressive. And it makes you wonder if, that was their big showing or if they can do it again and again. We've seen JT Toppin this season do that over and over. We've seen Darion Williams do it more in spurts this season. But there was a stretch where he was scoring, 15 or 20 a game there in that run you went on. So I think Darion Williams certainly has the capability. The shot by Christian Anderson at the end of the game in a pretty big moment to kind of stretch it back out, or maybe a dagger three at the top of the key there. How big was that for him to just see one go down? Because it hadn't yet.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to that. I mean, look, like he's not off to a good start in this tournament whatsoever. On both ends, he has not looked sharp. And when we were heading into the tournament, you asked me, like, who's going to be the second most important player for this team? And I said Christian Anderson. I think he has to be. You're getting that from another league guard right now who is much more experienced and who has NCAA tournament experience, and that's Elijah Hawkins, who was awesome once again against Drake. Just 7 assists, no turnovers, 16 points, 3 boards. What he's doing and the way that he's able to run the offense right now against NCAA tournament defenses is really, really impressive. And I think with Anderson, there's been some talk that he's not feeling well and has not been this past week. And so I think that certainly plays a part in it. But I think my mindset with him is like he's a pure shooter. Like I don't really think this guy gets the yips just because he's that talented. Like he knows how to put the ball in the basket that I don't think he's going to hit a cold stretch where, he's at the NCAA tournament and all of a sudden the lights are too bright. Like, no, this is a guy who was the best player in the world among under 18 players last summer. Like this is a guy who knows what it takes to match up against high level competition and perform his best. I think another thing I want to talk about kind of these two games, zoom out a little bit, talk about what it means, overarching takeaways. But even before the games tipped off, there were some tweets rifled up about guys that were watching open practices. I also got a couple of DMs. And the word was, I think if there's going to be a region where the balls are a little overinflated, it's going to be in Wichita. Like, I'm watching practice. I'm here live. It's an open practice, and everything is just flying off the rim. Like, it doesn't look right. Guys don't seem to have their touch. Might be something with the balls. And I think after this 2-game stretch, it's a little understandable. Like, you did not get the sample size against Drake that you got against the Seahawks. But even like Christian Anderson wide open, just left of the top of the key has been automatic this year. Like that is his favorite spot. He can take it wherever he wants, however he wants, and it's usually money. And he just wasn't hitting it. Yeah. And outside of Kerwin Walton, you have not been a good 3-point shooting team this tournament. And so I think hopefully as you head out west, that proves to be true. Get some new game balls in there. Hopefully there's no deflate gate or inflate gate happening, and you kind of regress back to the mean of what you have been this entire year, which is a really prolific 3-point shooting team.
Yeah, in that first game, Kerwin Walton 42%, everyone else 19%.
Yeah.
Pretty poor, though. You did shoot a record amount of threes. I don't think we've talked enough about Elijah Hawkins yet.
Yeah.
Elijah Hawkins, a near triple-double in his first game. And then he scores 17 and has a bunch of assists in the second game. I think you had 8 points outside of the big 3 there against Drake. So I don't think you'll score, what was it, 77 again, scoring 8 points with the rest of the team. But really impressive for those three guys to get you to the Sweet 16. They just willed you past Drake in a way. So Elijah Hawkins has been very good. I would almost say that beyond JT Toppin, it's a conversation to be had whether the second best player was Darian Williams or Elijah Hawkins, because Hawkins was great in both games. Darian Williams certainly a piece in the first game and the star in the second, but Hawkins has just been the absolute glue, rubber cement that has made this team go and stick together in the two games. I'm not surprised that Texas Tech is in the Sweet 16. And Grant McCasland, in his second season, we kind of talked as the season was going on that, the NCAA tournament was a lock early on. And in that run you had in the Big 12, you start to think, well, the Sweet 16 is the floor here.
Yeah.
Because you're really good. And even with some injuries down the second half of Big 12 play, with some losses down the second half of Big 12 play to some pretty good teams, nothing in my mind changed. And yes, you've finally gotten the good seed. You beat the 14 seed. You get the lower seed in the second game. But Drake's a very good team. They won 30-plus games this year. I don't think it's been an easy road, but you've beat the two opponents in front of you, and Utah fans can say what they want. They're sitting at home on their couches, not running anything. But I think Texas Tech's been very impressive, and Grant McCasland has been very impressive. And I think people are starting to notice that nationally, in which I know people talk highly of Grant McCasland on shows like Field of 68 or otherwise, but it doesn't feel like Grant McCasland gets enough credit for what he's done in his career. He wins 20 games. And if he doesn't, he wins the conference tournament and goes to the NCAA tournament anyways. He did that one season at North Texas where he won 18 games. The rest of the time, he's won 20-plus. He's gotten to tournaments. He's won in tournaments. And this is just another step in the progression of Grant McCasland, in my opinion. And Texas was open this week. They hired Sean Miller from Xavier/Arizona. That's a guy who's never been past the Elite Eight, but is also kind of a guy who's won. Still kind of eyeing the Porter Moser saga there at Oklahoma. They haven't fired him yet, I don't believe. But there's some jobs open that he might go take, apparently. Minnesota, who had some things to say in their fan base about Elijah Hawkins when he left. They have a new coach. So you look around and you just kind of look at schools similar to Texas Tech, and you're starting to say, hey, maybe we aren't so similar to them, because this is now 3 coaches in a row who've gone to Sweet 16s in the last 7 years. Not a lot of people can do that. This is a program that has a really good facilities. This is a program that has now extended highly capable NIL donors in different ways, really. And now that you have Cody Campbell's backing on the 2 major sports, it really doesn't feel like you're going to stop. And it doesn't feel like Grant McCasland's going anywhere. And you get another lower seed in the third game. I know it's Arkansas. I know it's John Calipari. I know he's done it before in the NCAA tournament. But just looking ahead a little bit, it doesn't feel like there's any reason why you shouldn't be in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, and I mean, look, like a huge contributing factor to how coaches are perceived at the national level is success in March. And there's absolutely no arguing that Grant McCasland is a winner, but he's never made it out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament until now. And so now I think, and that's no indictment on his own, and like he had a very impressive win at North Texas in the NCAA tournament when he beat Purdue. It's not really an indictment on him as much as I think this is still a relatively young Division I coach. Like, this is a coach who's been at the D1 level only since 2017. So he's still kind of trying to establish himself and set himself up as a program builder. And I think this is the perfect place to do it for all the same reasons that you just mentioned. Now, I won't say that it's a surprise to me that this team is in the Sweet 16. I think I said that at the beginning of the year. Hey, ceiling's probably somewhere around Sweet 16. I've continued to feel confident in that claim throughout the year. I would even adjust my ceiling to be higher than that, and I certainly would now. But what has kind of surprised me is how they've gotten there. And look, I know it might sound a little bit like revisionist history or trying to cope, but like UNC Wilmington, bad matchup for Texas Tech. It just was, like, physically on paper. Like, look, I know a lot of people brush over those games, but as I'm sitting there, like, watching their film and breaking down their numbers, I'm thinking, like, they've got the size and the athleticism to match up with you down low, and they did. And they have a really good lead guard who is always a problem in March. You never want to see a good score first guard in March. And then you play Drake, who is just the most atypical double-digit seed that you can find. An extremely intelligent coach who runs a system unlike anything else in college basketball. That's not an easy team to beat. And you go and you beat them by 12 or 13. So you now have two double-digit wins. Regardless of seeding, I think that's impressive in March. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about Arkansas after the break, but, you know, you can claim this is a layup of a run, but I think those are the same people that are saying the NCAA tournament is boring this year. Like, are you just not watching the games? Are you just not, like, looking into your opponents? If not, it's fine. But just say the quiet part out loud, because I don't think anything about this is cheap. And I feel the exact same way about Arkansas. I think this is a much better team than a lot of people think. They have their challenges, but they're a good team, and they do not have a lot of bad losses this year, despite being really banged up. And so say what you want about Texas Tech. If they beat Arkansas, they'll surely have their hands full with one of Maryland or Florida. But I'm really impressed. Like, I mean, you're in the Sweet 16 with no Chance McMillan yet, arguably one of the most impactful offensive players in college basketball. Your freshman who shoots a three better than anyone on your team, that's a fact at this point, is one of your best on-ball defenders, is not showing up, and you've had a bad game from a second-team All-American in the first round, and you have two double-digit wins, and you're in the Sweet 16. Like,
I'll take it.
Yeah, like, I mean, if all those things get fixed, and again, all it takes is one game to break you, and you're thinking about what ifs for the next 8 months. But man, that's where it starts to get a little, like, the hairs on your neck will stand up a little bit, because it's like, man, if we can get McMillan back in the fold and he's feeling good and he's making shots, if Christian Anderson can start to play a little bit more like himself, if we continue to get the ball down low to JT Toppin at an effective rate, if we can force some turnovers on defense, like, ooh, man, it's a scary team.
All right, quickly before we start talking about Arkansas in earnest, you mentioned people were saying the tournament has not been good. It's not been a lot of tight buzzer beaters like we remember. Some people are saying the tournament's dead because there's not as many Cinderella runs. I don't agree with that as much as I might agree with there haven't been a bunch of buzzer beaters, but there's been some quality basketball. It's one of those things where Major League Baseball stinks. Well, maybe you just don't like Major League Baseball. So I think that's a little bit of, this tournament stinks. Well, maybe you just don't like college basketball. You just like upsets and chaos. So I do think there's a little bit of that going on. I've seen some high quality college basketball. There have been some surprises. I thought Ole Miss just running away from Iowa State was a big surprise. But otherwise, I think it's the lack of surprise that has kind of hindered the tournament. Do you have any overarching thoughts on either the first two games for Texas Tech, surprise-wise, or the rest of the tournament? I thought the Big 12 performed well, and you have 4 teams, which is a record for the league, or at least tying a record, which I was a little bit surprised with. Going to the Sweet 16. Didn't you have 4 in the Sweet 16 when you played Villanova, maybe? I guess not. Anyways, because I know Kansas was in there. Maybe if you would have played West Virginia in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. No, because they played West Virginia in the Sweet 16. And Kansas was up. Maybe it's just 3. Anyways, I do think it's been a solid tournament. Maybe not as exciting as years past with some upsets and whatever else. You don't have a Butler. You don't have a Davidson. But on the flip side, I didn't really like the FAU San Diego State tournament where you had those two, and that was kind of a flop at the end too. So it cuts both ways. I like that Texas Tech is among Arkansas and Florida and Auburn and, Kentucky, some of these big Kentucky, and some of these kind of big brands that are left. So Duke, I think it's pretty special. And you still have 4 Big 12 teams in with Houston, Arizona, BYU, and Texas Tech. Now, you won't get 4 in the Final Four because BYU and Arizona, if they both win, would play each other. But it's been fun to me through the first 4 games, even though the pig commercial's back. Lady Gaga's on the TV every break.
Yeah, both those things have been brutal. But I mean, like, if you want to have a conversation with me about like NIL and resources and how that's making sure the lower tier teams in college basketball a little bit better, but also the best of the best probably a little bit better than them, sure, I'm willing to sit down and listen and have an educational conversation about that. I just don't understand the theory that there's not good, exciting basketball on. I just don't think people are watching games. I mean, like, I think the thing that really hurts it is the standalone games haven't been great. But, man, you will have, like, 3 games on where it's like, all right, I'm going to catch, like, the final 4 of this one, and then I'm going to move over and watch the final 6 minutes of this one, and then I'll have 2 minutes left in another good game. There's just a lot of good basketball on right now. So grateful to be soaking it all in, man. I'm glad that I don't hate college basketball and have to try and convince myself what I'm watching sucks, because that sounds terrible. Also, one last thing before we talk about Arkansas. What's the bit we're all doing where it's like, hey, can I say something without people getting mad or like, oh, you know what I'm thinking? And it's about Chris Beard being a good coach. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Who has in their right mind denied that over the last 7 years?
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah, like nobody is arguing that this guy is not a good college basketball coach. I think a lot of people do not like him personally and who he is as a human being, which is very understandable.
Yeah.
But we don't need to do like the whole like, oh, people think Chris Beard's a bad coach and I don't, so I'm smarter than you. Like, no, come on, man. This guy is a proven winner. He is a stickler and is so stubborn about sticking to what's worked. And you look at that damn sideline, and I'm telling you, every single chair is the same as it was in 18-19. Yeah. And it's like, come on. Like, no, this guy understands consistency. He understands how to build a program. He understands maybe more than anything how to take an identity and put it onto a team and get them to believe in that and get them to play at their best at that level. But I don't get it, man. It's like, all right, sure. Like, yes, you're so right. Like you can finally see that Chris Beard is a good college basketball coach. You really got me.
Did you listen to Kyle and I last time?
I did not, but I saw his tweet, and it's part of what got under my skin.
Yeah, it's not a shock. Yeah, Chris Beard's a good coach. Yeah, we've known that. part of my thing is that I just still like Chris Beard. I like the bad guy sometimes in movies and otherwise. I don't like Dan Hurley. I think
Oof.
he's overboard with it. But I like Chris Beard. I like his press conferences. I like that he's kind of an a-hole. I understand you have your history with him there in press conferences. And I understand that as well, but it just to me is I still like Chris Beard. I think he can be successful back in the Big 12 if he goes to West Virginia. I do not know who West Virginia is waiting on. That seems like they're waiting on somebody. I do not want Chris Beard and Mark Adams back in the Big 12 because I think West Virginia is a spot that really, really makes sense for that crew.
Yeah,
I would not like that.
We both are fans, I believe. You know that I am a fan of Irrational on Twitter. And initially in the coaching search, he's like rifling off like the West Virginia athletics like graphic template for like coaching announcements. And like it's Ben McCollum obviously on day one, because that's who West Virginia fans in their right mind were thinking they were going to get and would have been an incredible hire. And then today I saw one and it was like Mothman. And like the governor of West Virginia's dog. And it's like, yeah, I kind of get that, because there's even a really, really good player out of Virginia who's in the portal now who is a big West Virginia target. And it's like, man, this guy makes a lot of sense to go to Morgantown, but they don't have a coach. Like,
got to have somebody.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's another thing. The transfer portal should not be open until games are over.
You see how many players entered today?
It's ridiculous.
700.
It's ridiculous. Magoo, one of them. We'll talk about the portal in a second. Hey, if you're listening or if you're watching there on YouTube, thanks for watching. We're going to move on to a preview of Arkansas that you can watch and listen to. Well, just listen to on patreon.com/GamblingGauchos. If you're on the Republic of Football feed, if you're on the YouTube feed, thank you. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Go listen to, I guess, anybody else this week besides maybe TCU, who would be talking about a baseball win over Texas Tech. But everyone else go listen to, unless they're just going to be talking about Haley Van Lith, then you can listen to the TCU people. They're all right. They're all right. Houston's still in it as far as the Texas schools go. So the Houston podcast also, they're on the Republic of Football feed if you want some more NCAA tournament talk. Otherwise, we will leave you here. Au revoir. And move on to the Arkansas preview and a mailbag. So if you're interested in those, Gambling Gauchos, Patreon at patreon.com/GamblingGauchos.